Hey guys, as you guys know, I'm not here today, but I'm on campus. Okay, so as I said before, guys, um, my expectations is that you guys will behave and do the work as if I am there, and I am there, just not in the classroom right now. So this is what you guys are going to be doing today. You're going to go over the answers on this video. Go over the answers that you guys think you had the most trouble with. Okay, you then will have a worksheet that the substitute teacher will give you. And whatever you guys don't finish is homework. And you guys have a quiz on Monday. So let's get started. Here are the problems. As you guys should remember, you guys had to do page 306 to 308, the even problems. So here we go. Number 2. The sum of the number and its reciprocal is 13 over 6. Find the number. The setup is x plus 1 over x equals 13 over 6. What I want to do is put a 1 under the x. Multiply now everything by the lowest common denominator, which is 6x. Once I multiply everything by the lowest common denominator, I get 6x squared plus 6 equals 13x. I want to move everything to the left-hand side. I get 6x squared minus 13x plus 6 equals 0. When I factor this out, it becomes 3x minus 2 times 2x minus 3 equals 0. The result for my solution is x equals 2/3 and 3/2. Both of these work because both of these are reciprocals of each other, and they add up to 13 over 6. For number 4, the sum of the reciprocals of two consecutive even integers is 11 over 60. Remember, guys, the way you write the variables for two consecutive even integers is x and x plus 2. At this point, what you want to do is write them as reciprocals because they're supposed to add up to 11 over 60. I want to get rid of my denominators by multiplying everything by the lowest common denominator, which is 60x times x plus 2. I then multiply everything by 60x, x plus 2. I then get 60x plus 2 plus 60x equals 11x times x plus 2. The denominators are now canceled. I can then do the distributive property. I get 60x plus 120 plus 60x equals 11x squared plus 22x. I could do some simplification on the left-hand side. I get that. Since the x squared is on the right-hand side, I want to scoot everything to the right-hand side. So as a result, I get 0 equals 11x squared minus 98x minus 120. This does factor out to 11x plus 12 times x minus 10. X then equals to negative 12 over 11 and 10. As you guys know, negative 12 over 11 is not an integer. In addition, 10 is just not my answer. I'll have to figure out both numbers. Those two numbers are 10 and 12. For number 6, I have to read it carefully. We did something like this in the class yesterday. The numerator of a fraction is 1 less the denominator. If the numerator and the denominator are both increased by 4, the new fraction will be 1/8 more than the original fraction. Find the original fraction. Well, according to this, the original fraction says the numerator of a fraction is 1 less than the denominator. How do I set that up? Basically, it's d minus 1 over d. This illustrates that the numerator is 1 less than a denominator. Then it says if the numerator and the denominator are both increased by 4, this new fraction will be 1/8 more than the original fraction. I get that. To solve this, I have to multiply everything by the lowest common denominator, which is 8d times d plus 4. Once I multiply everything by the lowest common denominator, I should get this. 8d times d plus 3 equals 8d plus 4 times d minus 1 plus d times d plus 4. I'm going to try to do the distributive property for this. I'm going to FOIL this, and I'm going to do the distributive property for that. As a result, I get 8d squared plus 24d equals 8 times d squared plus 3d minus 4 plus d squared plus 4d. I then could do the distributive property for this one, and I get this. So I'm going to do a lot of simplification on the right-hand side. Eight d squared and d squared I can simplify. I can also simplify 24d and 4d. Once I do that, I get this. 8d squared plus 24d equals 9d squared plus 28d minus 32. I then want to put everything to the right-hand side. So I get 0 equals d squared plus 4d minus 32. I can factor this out. So I get d plus 8 times d minus 4. As a result, d, not x, equals negative 8 and 4. A negative 8 won't work for the fraction. So I plug it back into d minus 1 over d for 4, and my answer is 3/4. For number 8, it says two numbers differ by 11. When the larger number is divided by the smaller, the quotient is 2, and the remainder is 4. Find the numbers. Well, guys, this is very confusing, but you won't get a problem like this on your quiz, but I want you guys to see how I set it up. The first confusing part is two numbers differ by 11. Now, when people think that when the word differ appears, it has to be subtraction. It doesn't have to be. When two numbers differ by 11, doesn't that also mean that one number is 11 more than the other? So I can write the variable for the first sentence as this, x and x plus 11. They differ by 11. So the second sentence says the following. When the larger number is divided by the smaller, x plus 11 over x, the quotient is 2, and the remainder is 4. So that gets me 2 plus 4 over x. If you don't understand why I got the x under the 4, don't worry. Just see how I set it up right now. So at this point, I want to solve. I'm going to put a 1 under the 2. I'm now going to multiply everything by the lowest common denominator, which is x. When I do that, I get x plus 11 equals 2x plus 4. After some canceling, my answer will be x equals 7. So what are my two numbers that differ by 11? Well, 7 and 18. Now for number 10, you have to use the chart. Jackie commutes 30 miles to her job each day. She finds that if she drives 10 miles an hour faster, it takes her 6 minutes less to get to work. Find the new speed. Well, for this, guys, she has two conditions, the slower and the faster. Now we know that she commutes 30 miles each day, so her slower distance and her faster distance are going to equal to each other. So I'm going to put 30 for her slower distance. Do we know how fast she goes originally at her slower speed? The answer is no, so I'm going to put X there. So what's her time? Well, her time is basically the distance divided by her rate, which is 30 over X. So that's how I set up her slower speed. X, 30 over X, and 30. Now, according to the problem, she drives at the faster speed 10 miles an hour faster. So that's going to be X plus 10. But when she travels the speed, she travels 6 minutes less. But one thing you should remember is that you cannot write 6 minutes in time. You had to convert it to hours. How much is 6 minutes out of an hour? Well, that's 1/10 of an hour. So the way I set it up for her time at the faster speed is 30 over X minus 1/10, because 6 minutes is 1/10 of an hour. So as a result, I'm going to multiply those two things. As you recall, her slower distance is the same as her faster distance. So that's how I set up my equation. So how do you go about doing this right now? The way I'm going to go about doing this right now is I'm going to do some foiling. These are two binomials that I can multiply with each other. So that's 30 equals the first two numbers, X times 30 over X. That gives me 30. The outside, if I multiply X times 1/10, I get X over 10. If I multiply the inside numbers, that's 10 times 30 over X. That gives me 300 over X. If I multiply the last numbers, 10 times negative 1/10, that gives me minus 1. So what I can do at this point, I guess, is I can do some simplification. 30 minus 1 simplifies to 29 on the right-hand side. I can then do more simplification by minus 29 for both sides. As a result, I get 1 equals negative X over 10 plus 300 over X. So what's my lowest common denominator? My lowest common denominator is 10x, and I multiply everything by that 10x. When I multiply everything by that 10x, I then get 10x equals negative x squared plus 3,000. Because there's a negative x squared, I want to move everything to the left-hand side. So as a result, I get x squared plus 10x minus 3,000 equals 0. From this, what I should remember is I could factor this. This factors out to x plus 60 times x minus 50. So what's my answer for x? Negative 60 and 50. Negative 60 doesn't work, so I get 50 for x. But that's not my answer. If you guys recall, x is her speed at the slower speed. So what's her faster speed? So I'm going to plug in 50 into here. So put 50 into x plus 10. The answer is going to be 60 miles per hour. To do number 12, it's tricky, but very similar to number 10. The $75 cost for a party was to be shared equally by all those attending. Since 5 more people attended than was expected, the price per person dropped by 50 cents. How many people attended the party? So this is a chart they give you in the book, planned and actual. how much was planned originally? Well, $75 is the original cost. Do we know how many people was supposed to attend originally? No. I put X there. So how much was it planned for each person to pay? Well, that's going to be 75 divided by X. $75 divided by how many people were supposed to attend. But according to the problem, guys, we know that 5 more people attended. So that's going to be X plus 5. So how much did people have to pay then? Well, the price dropped by 50 cents. So that's going to be 75 over X minus 50 cents. And I'm just going to multiply that to get the cost. Well, the cost originally was 75, which is equal to the same as the actual cost. So I'm going to make those equal to each other. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to do some FOILing. So when I FOIL, I'm going to multiply the front. X times 75 over X. I then get 75. I'm going to multiply the outside. X times negative a half. That's negative X over 2. I'm going to multiply the inside. That's going to be plus 375 over X. If I multiply the last, that's going to get me negative 5 halves. And I get that. I'm going to do some simplification. I'm going to cancel out the 75 from both sides. As a result, I get 0 equals negative X over 2 plus 375 over X minus 5 over 2. What's my lowest common denominator? Well, that's going to be 2X. Let's multiply everything by my lowest common denominator. I then get 0 equals negative X squared plus 750 minus 5X. Since it's a negative X squared, I'm going to scoot everything to the left-hand side. So I get X squared minus 5X plus 750. Ooh, minus 750. Minus 750. That then factors out to X plus 30 times X minus 25 equals 0. As a result, I get X equals negative 30 and 25. Does negative 30 work? No. So I get 25 for X. But that's how many people were supposed to attend originally. How many people actually did come? I have to plug it back in here. So how many people did actually go to the party? 30 people. Okay, the last one. An experienced plumber made $600 for working on a certain job. His apprentice, who makes $3 per hour less, also made $600. However, the apprentice worked 10 hours more than a plumber. How much does the plumber make per hour? So the way you set up this one is very similar to number 10 and 12. We know that the plumber makes a total of $600. So I'm going to put that in my chart. Do we know how much the plumber makes per hour? No. So I'm going to put X there. So how much time did the plumber actually work? Well, I can figure that out by doing 600 over X. So it then says the apprentice makes $3 per hour less. So that's going to be X minus 3. It also says the apprentice worked 10 hours more. So if the plumber worked 600 over X hours, how much did the apprentice work? 600 over X plus 10. I then multiply those two. Well, as you guys remember, the plumber and apprentice to make the same amount of money of $600. So I'm just going to make it equal to each other. What will I do? Well, as you guys know, I'm going to do some foiling. So let's FOIL. 600 equals x times 600 over x gives me 600. I'll multiply the outside. X times 10 gets me 10x. If I multiply the inside, negative 3 times 600 over x gives me negative 1800 over x. If I multiply the last, negative 3 times 10, that's minus 30. That gets me that. I could do some canceling from the left and right side. I could cancel the 600s, and I'm in minus 600 from both sides. I then get 0 equals 10x minus 1800 over x minus 30. What's my lowest common denominator? Well, that's going to be x. So multiply everything by x. I then get 0 equals 10x squared minus 1800 minus 30x. I don't like the arrangement of this, so I'm going to reorganize this. So I'm going to make it 10x squared minus 30x minus 1800. So I'm going to have to do some factoring here to get my solution. But as you guys know, I could take the greatest common factor to make this a lot easier to do. So what's the lowest common, what's the greatest common factor? Well, that's 10. So that's going to be 10 times x squared minus 3x minus 180. If I factor that out, that gets me x minus 15, x plus 12. X equals 15 and negative 12. Does negative 12 work when you make money? Hopefully it doesn't. So how much money does the plumber make per hour? $15 an hour. All right, guys. These are the answers. Hopefully you got most of it. If you don't, replay the answers again. What you're going to do right now is do the worksheets. The worksheets is due on Monday. The answers are on the back. Get cracking on it, and I'll see you guys later. Remember, I'm on campus still. Make me proud. See you guys later.